Well, I guess the franchise. I'm thinking of a franchise that started out absolutely huge and is still a giant today. This franchise began with an absolutely iconic trilogy of games, except that could technically be considered to be 4 games because one of the entries is technically 2 games. But either way, fans still adore this trilogy to this day, and many fans consider the 3rd entry in this trilogy to be the best in the franchise as a whole. What franchise am I thinking of? Well, it's really quite obvious. Sonic the Hedgehog. But we're not talking about Sonic today. We're talking about Super Mario.
The Super Mario franchise is one of the biggest and most popular franchises in the world, clocking in at number 9 on the highest grossing media franchises. It's had countless spin-offs and merchandise and food and a movie that nobody likes. The Mario franchise is incredibly popular. There aren't many people that don't recognize him.
But Mario's success didn't just form overnight. No, it's like the doctor said when I was born. You gotta start somewhere. Maybe start a little later than that. Just a bit later. There we go!
After a couple romps in the arcade, the Mario series really found its footing on September 13th, 1985 with the release of Super Mario Bros. See, a couple years earlier, Nintendo had just released their first video game home console, the Nintendo Entertainment System in America, to tremendous success. That success came from marketing the thing as anything but a video game console, since what was essentially the apocalypse happened that same year. Yeah, the video game crash of 1983, caused by an overabundance of consoles and low-quality titles for those consoles. Add to that the fact that home computers were starting to take off around this point, and you've got a recipe for crashing the video game market. So Nintendo markets the NES as a toy. They make it look like this, and they use weird truth-bending lingo like entertainment system and game packs to ensure that no self-respecting American sees this thing as a video game console. And guess what happened?
Everybody immediately saw through Nintendo's marketing, nobody bought it, and it flopped? God, Americans can be stupid sometimes.
Now, obviously in the rest of the world, the video game market crash wasn't really that much of an issue. It was pretty much just an American problem. So Nintendo didn't really have much of a problem releasing the NES in Europe and its Japanese equivalent, the Famicom, in Japan. Regardless, Nintendo had essentially cornered the entire video game market, and by 1985, Americans were starting to be more comfortable with the idea of a video game again. So now it's time to release more games. Shigeru Miyamoto, who at this point had helped work on a bunch of Nintendo games as well as creating Donkey Kong and the original Mario Bros, wanted to make a game that would be sort of a culmination of all NES games at that point. Even though there would still be NES games released long after Super Mario Bros. Actually, it was because the Famicom Disk System was about to be released in Japan, which was an add-on for the Famicom that would play disc-based games. So Super Mario Bros. Was really supposed to be the culmination of all cartridge-based games. The NES never got an add-on like this, and a good majority of games released for the Disk System were able to be put on cartridges for an NES release, so this game was not a finale to anything. Regardless, Super Mario Bros. Was given to Japan on September 13th in 1985, released in North America later that year, and came to the rest of the world in 1987. And the rest is history.
You know, I've never actually played through the original Super Mario Bros. Before. This is my first time, so let's get into it.
The story of Super Mario Bros. Is that Bowser, the King of the Koopas, kidnapped Princess Peach of the Mushroom Kingdom, and it's up to Mario to save her.
Alright, let's just get this out of the way. I'm not the biggest fan of the original Super Mario Bros. Oh, come on! Have you even played it?
Super Mario Bros. Is one of those games that everybody knows exists, but only like 15% of people have actually played it the whole way through. Most people will just play the first 2 levels and then form their opinion around that. It's just kind of this thing where the game is incredibly famous and spawned one of the most popular franchises of all time and all that, so people just assume the game is incredible and perfect. And then the same people will get pissed off at anyone who says anything less of it, but then the people who actually have played the whole thing will say it exactly how it is. It's just good. I'm sure by 1985 standards, this game was comparable to the fucking second coming of Christ or whatever. However, nowadays, this game definitely shows its age in some areas. First of all, Mario. Okay, I'm not the first person to complain about the original Mario sprite and its vomit color palette, and I won't be the last. And I know it's just because of hardware limitations that he looks like this, but did they really have to pick red, orange, and this disgusting brown-green color? I'm just saying, they made Mario look better in other games on the same console. Whatever, it's not like it's a legitimate complaint anyways. What is a legitimate complaint, though, is the controls.
Let me finish.
Okay, so for my entire playthrough of this game, I never felt like I had a good handle on the controls. Which I know sounds batshit insane, the game is just holding the run button and jumping, and yeah, most of the time I would be fine making jumps. But there would always be this small amount of doubt I would have with any jump I made. Like sometimes I would do a jump normally, and it felt right, it did exactly what I expected it to. And then sometimes Mario would either get no distance at all on the jump, or randomly get a huge boost of momentum and completely overshoot. And I just couldn't figure it out. I had no idea what I was doing wrong, which, if you've played video games before, then you know not knowing what you're doing wrong can really bring down the experience. Also, I had a weird time jumping off of enemies. Sometimes I would essentially go underneath the enemies and still jump off of them, and other times I would die, and it was kind of frustrating, but I only lost a couple nights of sleep over it. And then probably my biggest problem with this game is the difficulty. This game can be absolute bullshit sometimes.
I said let me finish.
Super Mario Bros. Is split up into 8 worlds, each containing 4 levels, and if I had to draw a difficulty curve for this game based on how hard each world was, that curve would look something like this.
Allow me, if you will, to share how long I spent on each world.
World 1 took me 3.5 minutes, I was falling asleep at the wheel. World 2 took 10 minutes, harder but still pretty easy. World 3 also took 10 minutes, again not really that hard. World 4 took 25 minutes, a couple annoying bits here and there, but overall still enjoyable. World 5 took me roughly an hour and 15 minutes. Yeah. World 6 only took 15 minutes to beat, World 7 took 33 minutes, and then World 8 took 5 hours! Are you fucking kidding me?
Funny thing is, looking back to my playthrough of this game, I don't remember a good majority of these levels. I don't remember why World 5 took me so long to beat, and yeah, World 8 had a bunch of bullshit, but not 5 hours worth of bullshit. Maybe I'm just bad at video games.
There are definitely some moments here that made me question the sanity of the developers. For example, all of 8.3, who the fuck thought it was a good idea to build a level centered around Hammer Bros? But for the most part, I don't even remember why this game took me so damn long to finish.
And that's kind of my main takeaway from Super Mario Bros. It's an enjoyable experience, there's just nothing all that much that sticks out to me. There's no levels that really stick out in my brain other than, like, the first 2, but come on, everybody knows the first 2 levels of Super Mario Bros.
I don't hate this game, by the way. This was obviously a big deal, and all the core elements of a Mario game are here. Running and jumping, the Super Mushroom, the Fire Flower, the Invincibility Star, coins, Goombas, Koopa Troopas, Warp Pipes, question mark blocks, secret exits, the Flagpole, Bowser, Peach. Pretty much everything you see in Super Mario Bros. Can be found in almost every Mario game going forward. This is a good game, and I appreciate what it does. It's just, on its own, it's not really my thing.
So that was the thing. Of course, when you beat the game, you have the option to play through it again, slightly harder, doing things like turning all the Goombas into Buzzy Beetles, making all the enemies faster, stuff like that. I'll pass. The last thing I want to do after playing Super Mario Bros. Is play more Super Mario Bros. Unfortunately, we don't always get what we want.
Super Mario Bros. 2 was put into development because the development team of Versus Super Mario Bros., a harder version of the first game for arcades, really enjoyed making difficult levels, so they decided to make an entire game around that. The idea was to make a game for people that had truly mastered the first game.
So not me.
Yeah, this game is sort of infamous for being hard. You hear a lot of horror stories about how infuriatingly difficult this game is, and it's earned sort of a reputation for being the Mario game nobody likes. But before we get into that, let's take a look at the new things this game adds. It is a sequel after all, surely they changed things up a fair amount to keep things fresh.
I can count the amount of new things in this game on one hand.
First off, the game gives you the option to play as Luigi. You could play as him in the first game, except he was only available for player 2 in the 2-player mode. Here, not only can you play as Luigi alone, he also controls slightly different and worse. He's got a higher jump and worse traction, and while the higher jump is nice, Mario already doesn't have the best traction, so I opted to not play as Luigi. We've got some updated looks for ground, bricks, and background elements, but Mario and all the enemies look identical, which is just weird to me. Why did they prioritize changing how their ground looks but not changing any of these designs? Oh, sorry, the piranha plants are red now. The poison mushroom also makes its series debut, which will damage Mario if he touches it rather than power him up. That's fine, I guess. There's also this wind that slightly pushes Mario forward, which is more of a mild annoyance than anything. All of the text in the game has a drop shadow effect to it.
Holy shit! This is a sequel!
Super Mario Bros. 2 released on June 3rd, 1986 to a collective...
This is fucking bullshit!
The story of Super Mario Bros. 2 is that Bowser, the king of the Koopas, kidnapped Princess Peach of the Mushroom Kingdom, and it's up to Mario to save her.
Wait, this feels familiar.
Alright, so here's the thing. This game is not as bad as people say it is. Granted, it's not easy. There are definitely some dumb moments, but it's not rage-inducing or anything. It kind of just feels like it picks up where the first game left off. You know, like if there were more levels after World 8. It's not a cakewalk, but the people complaining about this game's difficulty are grossly over-exaggerating.
Is what I would say if I wanted to be wrong.
I'll say this, the first 4 worlds actually do feel like this, just a continuation of the first game's difficulty. I definitely wasn't blazing through these worlds, but I was starting to think that this game was not as bad as people said it was, and it was just another instance of hyperbolizing something for more attention. Again, there are some pretty insulting level design moments, like this spring in World 3-1 that takes you over the flagpole, which then takes you to a warp zone that goes back to World 1. Like, are you kidding me? But overall, it wasn't that bad. And then the game randomly throws a huge jump in difficulty. If I had to draw a difficulty curve for this game, it would look something like this. For reference, I spent roughly 2 hours on World 1 through 4. World 5 took me over 6 hours!
I don't want to do this anymore.
It just comes down to the fact that these levels are overly long for no reason and throw so much shit at you and just expect you to get good. It's not fun. And there are still 3 more worlds left. Almost 12 hours later, I did it. Kinda. So I played this game on the NES Online app on Nintendo Switch, which means access to the 8th deadly sin. Rewind. Rewinding is a feature added to a lot of re-releases of classic games, allowing you to rewind time and undo any mistakes you make. Some people really enjoy this feature and use it to their heart's content. I'm not one of those people. I don't know, it just feels like it's cheap and cheating. Like it takes any challenge and risk out of a game. There's no penalty for failure, you could just undo your mistakes. I mean, it's great if you don't want to spend an ungodly amount of time on a game, but it just feels immoral to me, so I've never used it in any game that has it. Until now. My reasoning with myself was, after spending roughly 5 hours trying to beat World 8, I had had enough of this game's shit. I was tired and wasn't having fun anymore. I had stopped having fun 18 hours ago. So I decided to cut my losses and just use the rewind feature so I could just stop playing.
There, I did it. It may have been illegitimate, but I finally beat Super Mario Bros. 2, and now I never have to touch this game ever again. Wait, what's happening? No. No, no, no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no!
So upon further research, it turns out there are 5 bonus worlds to play through. World 9 for beating the game with no warp zones, and then worlds A, B, C, and D for beating the game 8 times. Yeah, I didn't even try to beat World 9, and I especially didn't even try to unlock Worlds A through D. I saved Peach, and that's enough Super Mario Bros. 2 for 7 lifetimes. I don't like this game. At all.
This is not a game you need to play. I don't recommend it. The first Super Mario Bros. Has its dumb moments, sure, but there's still satisfaction in beating it, and it's interesting to see where the series started. This game's completely unnecessary. And it doesn't even feel like a sequel anyways, it just feels like an expansion or a continuation of the first game, only with the dumb parts being the main focus now. And I don't even understand how they actually thought it was okay to publish this game.
Look, I played a good amount of Super Mario Maker, and I've played some truly terrible and unfair levels. But what's more important is that I've made some truly terrible and unfair levels myself. And you know what? I'll say this. It is fun. It's fun trying to cram as many terrible ideas into a level as possible. It's fun being a sadistic asshole and making evil death traps that get me marked for mental instability. So I understand why this game was made, and I see where the developers were coming from when they made it. But here's the thing, I am 100% aware that the levels I've made are terrible and unfair and not enjoyable by anyone. And as such, I would not put them in an actual Mario game. They would be something I would hide in a desk drawer or maybe randomly put online for people to just try out if they felt like torturing themselves. But I would not put them in a mainline numbered Mario game, and I would definitely not make people spend money on them. I would just say, here's some levels I made when I was suffering from chickenpox. They're terrible. Please don't play them. Which, funnily enough, is almost exactly what they did.
Yes, Super Mario Bros. 2 did not actually release outside of Japan, not for a while anyways. It wouldn't be until 1993 where the rest of the world would get it as Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels as a part of Super Mario All-Stars on the Super Nintendo. Nintendo of America saw how utterly unfair Super Mario Bros. 2 was and gracefully decided to not release it. But we still needed a Super Mario Bros. 2. What happens when the next Mario game comes out and it's called Super Mario Bros. 3? That would throw off the numbering of the games, and that would be a repeat of the Final Fantasy numbering incident, and nobody wants to be the guy that caused a repeat of the Final Fantasy numbering incident. So instead of getting this bad game, we got a different bad game.
Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic was a game that released only in Japan for the Famicom on July 10th, 1987. It was a game focused on picking up objects and enemies and being able to carry them around and throw them, as well as having a focus on verticality and multiple playable characters. Nintendo of America saw this and went,
"It's perfect, we'll take that but make it Mario!"
And thus the international version of Super Mario Bros. 2 was born. The core gameplay and level design was the same as Doki Doki Panic, but various graphical changes and sound effects were changed to make the game look and sound more like a Mario game. For example, changing the 4 playable characters into Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Toad. Super Mario Bros. 2 released on October 9th, 1988 in North America and early 1989 in the rest of the world, while also being released as Super Mario USA in Japan in 1992.
Okay, so this game isn't actually that bad, it's just really fucking weird.
The story here is that
take a guess.
Mario has a dream about a magical world that gets taken over by an evil frog named Wart. The next day, Mario tells Luigi, Peach, and Toad about this dream, and they all tell him that they all had the exact same dream too. Then they find the door to the magical world and decide to save it. Except it turns out that all that was just in Mario's dreams too.
Okay, never mind then.
Okay, so, elephant in the room, there are 4 playable characters in this game. Mario, who's the all-around character, medium speed, medium jump, he's fine. Luigi's the worst character, he's got a super floaty jump and terrible traction, so it feels almost impossible to control him. Toad is apparently the fastest out of the 4, but in the very short amount of time I played as him, I did not notice a difference. And then we have Peach, who is easily the best character who I played the entire game with. She's got this float move which pretty much breaks the game, it makes things so easy. These characters were made playable again in Super Mario 3D World with the same ability, so I beat that game entirely with Peach too.
All games are made 100% better when a character has a float move.
Alright, so Super Mario Bros. 2 is much shorter than the previous 2 games. There's only 7 worlds here, and each world has 3 levels instead of 4. Except World 7 only has 2 levels. Although some of these levels can get pretty long, which is all thanks to the game's levels' focus on verticality. See, the other 2 games' cameras never scrolled up, it was locked to the height of the screen. However, here the camera goes up as high as it wants, and you can also go backwards, thank God! The first 2 games didn't let you turn around, so if there was a block you wanted to hit but walked too far past it, you wouldn't be able to turn around and get it. Here it feels like there's way more room for exploration, even if there's not really anything to look for. There's still a clear-cut beginning and end, and there's really only one path to get there. Additions-wise, this game adds a bunch of new stuff to the series on the account that it plays completely differently from the first 2 games. Jumping on enemies doesn't defeat them, but you can stand on them and let them walk you around, or you can pick them up and throw them at other enemies, which will defeat both of them. And if you can't find any enemies to throw, well then, might I suggest you pick a vegetable and throw it. Try it, it has the same effect. In any of these spots where you see grass, you can pluck them out of the ground and get a vegetable, which you could throw at enemies, which has the same effect as throwing another enemy at them. Or you could get any numerous things. You could get 1-ups, bombs, a clock that stops time, or a magic potion that creates a door.
Of course you can.
This magic door takes you to Purgatory, where you lock to one screen and can collect anything you find there. Any grass will give you coins, and depending on where you put the door, you can get a mushroom which will give you extra health.
Wait, health? What kind of Mario game is it? Oh yeah, it's not.
Instead of having power-ups, you're given a health bar indicated by these shapes over here. You're given 2 hits at the start of every level, but you can find mushrooms in the Purgatory doors to increase the amount of hits you can take before you die. Speaking of dying, at the end of each level you fight Birdo!
Oh god!
This game is actually the first appearance of a lot of iconic enemies in the Mario series. Shy Guy, Sniffit, Bob-ombs, Pokies, Ninjas, and of course, Birdo. Birdo will shoot eggs at you, which you can then pick up and throw back at her. It takes 3 eggs to beat her, and then she drops a magic orb which opens this bird door, which signifies the end of a level.
What does this have to do with dying?
After you beat a level, you're given a slot machine where you can use the coins you collect in the Purgatories to win extra lives. I never figured out how this works. I never figured out the timing, and I never figured out what got you an extra life other than a cherry in slot 1. Alright. What else is there? The bosses, they're fine. They're not super challenging, you just beat them the same way you've been beating everything else. Except with the final fight against Wart, it seems like where you need to throw things to damage him is really particular. I found standing behind him worked sometimes, so I'm not sure if that was what I was supposed to do. But I made it work and I beat the game.
So that was a game. It wasn't bad, I just didn't really like it. It was just okay. If you want to try it, go ahead. There are some enjoyable moments, but overall, I found it to be an incredibly mediocre experience. I will say I did find it to be more memorable than the other 2 games, though, being so unique gameplay-wise and actually having different level themes, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about Super Mario Bros. 2. And I am done talking about Mario. Playing through these games was honestly exhausting. The fact that highest praise I can give any of them is that I tolerate them? Nah, I'm done with Mario for a while. Played 3 games, and if you know anything about trilogies, they can only have 3 things in them, so that's it. Wrap it up. Everybody go home. That's it. Nothing to see here anymore. We're done here. What the hell?